This is the plaintiff, Jamie Cable. She says the defendant owes her for unpaid water bills from the house he rented from her parents. The guy never paid the bills. He keeps telling her he will and is nothing but a liar. She's had it with this guy's lies and is suing him here and now for the $851.32 she's most definitely owed. This is the defendant, Bradley Borquist. He says he rented the house from the plaintiff's parents, and there was never any mention of him having to pay the water bills. His understanding was it was included in the rent because he never once received a bill until the plaintiff came a knocking on his door after she sold the house. Bottom line, he moved out of the house in good standing and owes this opportunist nothing. He's accused of refusing to get soaked.
All parties, please raise your right hands.
Welcome back to the People's Court. Next case on the docket. The plaintiff says the defendant owes her for unpaid water bills, but the defendant says he rented the house from the plaintiff's parents, so there was no mention of water bills. It's the case of lawsuit over troubled waters.
Thank you, Douglas. Jamie Cable, and you have power of attorney for George and Joanne, your parents?
Yes.
Okay, Supan. All right, you're suing Mr. Borquist, who was a tenant there for how long?
Approximately 3 years.
For the water bill that you say has remained unpaid. Tell me what happened here.
When he took over the lease from Jordan,
Okay, so there was somebody, when you say he took over, what does that mean? Had he been living there with him?
Yes.
And then he was the only person left. So you had a roommate named Jordan?
Yes.
2015 he had been
So
living
you
there.
lived there with Jordan between 2015 and what?
Beginning of 2017 timeframe.
And then, so Jordan moves out, and then you stayed.
Yep.
Okay. During that time, was he ever billed for water?
Yes.
And what would happen? Do you have proof of billing him?
Yes.
May I see that?
There are emails that were sent in as evidence and shows my mother stating, Bradley, I put this in the mail to you. Please take care of the water bill. And he responded, I'll go to the town today to take care of that.
Okay. Now, you don't deny that, right?
There was one instance back in 2018
Just
last
the
year.
only one that there's evidence of. All right. Where there's an email saying to you, pay the water bill. You haven't paid it. And your response is, I'll take care of that today. Now, what are you talking about? I don't have to pay the water bill. That's included in my rent. That wasn't your response.
They had asked me because when they were sending, my understanding was they were going to be late on the payment, so I went in person and paid it at that time.
I'm sorry. How much was the water bill you paid?
I think it was $60 or $70.
Okay. Why would you pay a bill of your landlord's? Like if I'm trying to envision a scenario where I could call my landlord and say, my landlord could call me and say, hey, I haven't paid my bills. Will you pay them for me? And I say, sure, no problem, when they're not my obligation. That is your contention. This is not my obligation. Why would you pay the water bill then?
Because they had asked that.
I'm saying, I'd like you to pay my car payment next month. I asked.
Well, that was the only instance of the water bill discussion of paying the water bill.
That is such damning evidence that there would be a written record of you actually paying the water bill. How can you stand here in front of me and tell me I was never supposed to pay the water bill? How do you then explain why you would go to the town and pay the water bill with money from your wallet?
It was a request, and
what?
I've never seen any bills until that point when I had moved.
Yeah, but you sound like a liar now when we know that at least on the one time you trotted down to the city and you paid the town and you paid the water bill. Okay. At some point, was there also some texts?
Yes.
Okay. Can you get those for me?
Yes.
You can hand it to my bailiff? So January 9th, that's you sending him a copy of the water bill.
I have the original bill here.
So she sends it to you January 9th.
Mm-hmm.
What'd you do with the January 9th bill that she sent you?
I don't remember.
Well, I can tell you what you said. What you said was you started talking about the painter and when the painter was going to come by. You completely ignored the water bill. Did you mention to him, hey, what about the water bill at that point? Or?
In a phone call.
Okay, and what did he say?
I'll get to that.
Okay, and then he didn't
Which-
get to that, right?
Correct.
And then you found out, and then, because at that point you were asking for how much?
$323.
Right. But now we have discovered that there were backwater bills during your tenancy that weren't paid. So if you just weren't such a heel and had paid the $300 and something, we wouldn't be here. But now the daughter is mad at you because it appears that you have taken advantage of her parents, she feels. So she went down to the city and trotted out the bills and found out that anytime you and your roommate did not pay the water bill, it would just go on her property tax bill, and she would end up paying it. So now it's not $300 and something, right?
Correct.
Now that you've uncovered this evidence, you want $824.82, which is still outstanding. Now what?
So if the lease is silent over the water bill, who pays, landlord or tenant?
The landlord should pay.
Why?
If it doesn't say in the lease, then the landlord should pay if it's not metered.
You agree with that?
I definitely agree with
How
that.
come?
Well, if it's not written, then it's understood that the landlord is going to be covering it.
Okay, I guess that makes sense going inside the courtroom.
Now what?
I don't feel like I owe at all the $800 and some odd dollars that
If
we
I
had
find
discussed.
that water's your responsibility, you owe it, right? If
But
I find
there
that
has
water
never
bill was
been-
not included in the rent, the whole question is, was
Yeah.
it included in the rent? If I find that the evidence seems to show me that it wasn't included in the rent, then you do owe it, right? So long as it takes
Yes.
place after you moved in, you do owe it, right?
Well, I moved in December of 2015, and at the beginning of 2017, never received any water bills
Oh,
or
actually,
discussion.
let's figure this out because
of-
it appears to be a pattern that just you're afflicted with. Because it appears that when Jordan lived there, Jordan did pay the water bill. So everything that's outstanding is from after Jordan leaving, where you just weren't paying the water bill. I see.
had thought it was included in the rent because
I'm
in
not
an
sure you
email-
did because of that time in April where you walked down to the town and paid it. I'm not sure you did think it was included in the rent. You don't act like a guy who thinks it's included in the rent. You act like a guy who's supposed to pay it. And if you had acted like a guy who did pay it and before you left made good and paid the $300, we wouldn't be here. But because we're here and she's done a complete accounting of all the other bills that her mother got stuck with that belong to you, and I do find they belong to you because my experience, if it walks like a duck and quacks like a duck and looks like a duck, it's a duck. And if you go down to town hall and you pay a water bill, it doesn't look like you don't understand that that you consume is your responsibility. I am finding in favor of the plaintiff in the full amount of the $824.82.
So the plaintiff is going to get the money for the water bill. Mr. Borkus, what do you think?
I guess I'm in the wrong. I don't think I am, but other people think I am. So.
Well, your activity of going down to pay that water bill once kind of cooked your goose, you know. It convinced the judge that you were aware. Sorry about that, but you got to pay up.
Yeah,
Thank you very much.
you're welcome.
Then we got to sign some documents on your way out. Ms. Cable, good for your research.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
I mean, had you not done that, you may not have won, you know.
Yes, that is true.
So everything is hunky-dory now. You're going to get the money.
Yes,
The
and
house is sold. He's
Yes.
not in it. And this ends it.
and hopefully karma will not be too rough on him.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Harvey?
Doug, everybody, when you sign a lease, make sure it is specific as to who pays the water bill and who pays utilities.